Hey, this is Misery Loves Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to come and share their work with us. And it's a Friday like any other. So, first up tonight is Eric. Eric, this is your first time reading, I think.
Good evening. It certainly is. Thank you so much for inviting me, William.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks for coming to read.
Welcome.
no problem. I just want to clarify before I start. Is there a time limit
No, we
for how
only have
long?
about 6 people signed up for tonight. We usually go for a couple hours. So you should be go as long
Okay.
as you want.
Although
That's
this
usually-
one time, I want to say this one time, someone came in and read Family Guy fan fiction for like 35 minutes, and that was bullshit. So don't
Oh.
It
do
was
that.
beautiful. It
It
was
was good
beautiful.
shit.
It
was
wasn't
good
just
shit.
Family Guy fan fiction. It was AI generated Family Guy fan fiction.
Oh
And
my. Okay. Right.
anyway, Eric,
I will not put. I will not put you through that, Josh. Do not worry, my good man. Okay, William. Sure. Shall I just get going? Yeah.
yeah, I think you're reading something from a novel that's coming out, right?
Sorry. What was that? You were muted there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think you're reading a novel excerpt, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get started. It's okay. Yeah, the novel excerpt. The book is called Zero Ek. It's an unpublished novel, and the chapter I'm reading is called From. So I will get through it quickly as I can, but I won't read too quickly because I'm conscious of my Scottish accent, and the consonants and vowels sometimes can be a little hard for some people to understand. Okay, here goes. Wash yourself, he demanded. You better wash yourself before you leave, or else. Adherence wasn't an option, rather a necessity. A fellow patient stood next to Zero, mimicking an authority figure, demanding he scrub thoroughly before allowing him to leave the bathroom. These were grubby facilities, he thought, rubbing soap that stank of disinfectant between his hands. Best get on with it and hope this nutball leaves me alone. He exited out onto a corridor which was long and pristine. Vinyl flooring so smooth one could slide all the way back to bed. The journey through the Institute was a sometimes fraught affair for Zero. It gave him fear and consequently bad dreams. And while many of the patients and staff at the Institute barely tolerated this horseplay, Zero was keen to avoid the deep-set eyes of all the sickly residents that lined the route back. He would make for the ward as fast as he could, skating along the floors, bearing cut-price ankle socks as he went. On the bed next to him lived a little lady who one day woke shaped like the letter S. At least that's how the poor thing described it. One morning at home, unable to get out of bed, she felt an almighty stiffness in her lower back. And crawling to the bathroom in agony, she managed to find some tablets which would relieve the swelling and the pain. Aged and already managing a dowager's hump, she caught a reflection a week later whilst visiting the supermarket, hobbling through the turnstile to the fruit section. It was then that it dawned on her of her new peculiar gait, that of the letter S. Zero liked the lady most out of everybody else in the ward. She said her name was Valerie, but Zero wasn't convinced that was so. He would notice her palm on the side and back of her white frizzy hair quite a lot. A fine coiffure for sure. She reminded him of a Bedlington Terrier he once had. He thought that thought was funny, albeit a little immature. Zero was mannered enough to know that one should never compare a lady, or for that matter, any person, to a dog, but he made the comparison all the same. Little in jokes like that kept him going, and while he enjoyed chatting with her, he drew the line when the subject of religious persuasions came up in conversation, considering it a bunch of hocus pocus. Valerie was awfully religious. One day, as he's staring at the windowless power, watching magpies clatters and airplanes fly high, some institute porters arrived and placed Valerie in a gurney, carting her Willard ass right out of there. He fought a protest odd as the miserable bastards removed her, yelling, "But I'm a fatalist! I'm a fatalist!" The rest of the ward were unmoved by the commotion, but most of them were half gone anyway. He gave the floor a long stare and fiddled with his bum fluff sideburns as he dragged her out. Zero was always feeble whenever a kerfuffle ensued. His embarrassment was the porter's draconian measures. Later, a doctor came by commenting that Valerie wasn't in great shape and needed specialist care. Days like this went by, and every other week brought a new guest from all walks of life to the bed across the way. Retired milkmen, labourers, writers, professional dog walkers, an academic type and a teacher in training. Zero liked the dog walker the most. He was a man in his twilight years who had been admitted to the institute with a ruptured disc. "I've had all sorts of different dogs over the years," he said proudly, "large and small, hundreds of them. Every dog brings its own unique set of challenges," he continued. "For a few months, I walked an old husky," he said. "Terrible skin condition, its hair was falling out, and the poor devil had some weak hind legs condition, myelopathy, I think." "What was its name?" Zero said. "Raj," the man replied. He could remember every dog he'd cared for, every single one, even their names and all the different breeds, articulating a whole host of dazzling words that Zero had never heard before, like Galgo Spaniel, Rhodesian Ridgeback, Japanese Spitz, Clumber Spaniel, Bichon Frise, the list goes on and on. That night he woke to the man sobbing and wondered what could be wrong. All he could hear were the utterances of, "And I want you to come back again and again and again and again." It was a desperate scene. Zero had never heard an old man cry before. He fought to comfort him, ask him what was wrong. But the Institute discouraged people from leaving their beds in the middle of the night. Indeed, if you dared venture outside the confines of the ward, an alarm would trigger and wake every soul in the wretched place. By the morning, the dog walker was gone, carted out as Valerie had. After breakfast, a doctor came by when Zero, tired and distressed, interrupted her on her rounds to ask why the man had been removed so suddenly. He's gone to From," she said. "But he couldn't walk. His back was done in," pleaded Zero. "Yeah, but that's what I mean. They've taken him to From," said the doctor, "at the Institute's behest." "From?" "Yeah, it's a city for all the zeros, the Fargons, the geriatrics. We'll all end up there one day, I suspect." Zero didn't like speaking with the doctor. She always used big words with lots of syllables that he didn't understand. What's more, he had grown tired of the Institute and he was considering his own residency there. The trouble being, so was everyone else, even the most poorly the poor, the maddest of the mad. So Zero tended not to ask too many questions or prod the doctors on the matter. Heaven forfend he should start to sound like all the others. That just wouldn't do. From quickly became a deep source of fascination to him, something to aspire to, aim for. Everyone at the Institute would talk about it deferentially. "A picture of how modern society should function for all," one commented. "The city of From has a AAA societal contentment rating," another proudly announced. Bashful yet excited by the prospect of entering this supposedly flawless society upon release, he set upon a plan to take afternoon tea from the highest vantage point in the Institute, to look down through the clouds in the hope of catching a glimpse of this supposedly utopian society subject of so much talk. Zero wanted to see for himself what all the fuss was about. Someday, any day, they all felt so terribly familiar and monotonous to Zero. He slipped into his penny blacks and made for the porter's hall, whence he would access the top floor. There was an old rusting trolley, partly covered in shabby whites by the elevator shaft. "This is my best chance," he mouthed silently to himself. It was a dirty-looking thing. The lower shelf was packed with glass jars containing matted and cloudy viscous solutions, presumably preservatives. Situated at the top floor was the Institute furnace. One must be sure to avoid obstructing the porters at work, he thought, twisting his arms and legs. He folded into the old thing and sat down, legs like a basket, amongst all the strange-looking things in the jars destined for hot coal and embers. Some minutes passed. Zero waited patiently for anything to happen. Unbeknownst to him, snow had begun to fall from as he hid behind the linen draping. The minutes turned to hours. The clouds were thickening. A great depression had approached in the west, benighting the land. It would prove impossible seeing it in bad weather. Harder still would be the walk back to his bed, all tucked tail with a sinking feeling, neither pictures nor images ingrained of a hopeful future. This time he didn't feel like sliding along the floor in his socks. It took a number of hours for him to get over the failure of the first run. He began to begrudge all the others for hyping the place as he lay there in bed, first cursing and snoring like a dreaming dog, self-deceiving himself into a state of whatever, who cares sort of mood. When he finally fell asleep, even his dreams failed to placate his surly mood. They were filled with outline shapes of what appeared to be ice-capped mountains, ideals, and hypotheses of Fromm's geography, perhaps. But in the end, turned out to be simply clouds in the sky. Sometimes in the ward at sundown, he would be captivated by the open pink sky that coloured the clouds from the bedside window. It made him feel calm, the stasis of it, like the world had stopped spinning entirely and was egging him on to catch everything up. The choices he had made since entering the institute, befriending Valerie, the poor old sod of a dog walker, they weren't befitting of a young man of his age. They hadn't come from within. They were actions solely as a result of the environment he found himself in, whereas finding a route to Fromm, that truly felt like a deep hankering in his soul. At the very least, it was an employment of Zero's practical and problem-solving faculties after months of just lolling around the ward and institute corridors. After a few more days of skulking and gathering his thoughts, a second attempt to make the top floor proved much more successful, and he was glad of the dry run in retrospect. Rather than idly sitting there next to the rotting matron waiting to be clandestinely transported, Zero nabbed the porter's overalls and a hard hat and dressed like one of them. He guided a trolley into the elevator and made for the top floor, boldly with urgency greater than he'd ever felt before. Staring at the sturdy metallic interior of the elevator car, he wondered about all the journeys that had gone before. The stench of motor oil was thick from the juddering machine that powered the thing. The noise made him grip the handrails tighter as he looked down at the floor covering, hoping to reach the roof where he'd much rather be. Suddenly, the doors opened, and he slowly lifted his head to assess the ground that needed following. A grey tarmac surface supported vents and another industrial-like orifice, presumably for air conditioning and what have you. He decided to leave the trolley by the entrance, pick it up on the way back, and at first started to move cautiously to check and see if anyone else was around. It was an awfully tall building. By the time he reached the verge, the wind had picked up, making his eyes stream so hard that the tears burned the skin in his cheekbones. He wiped them from his face, exhaling exhaustively as he did so. Fromm was a largely rural city with pathways cutting through with forests around sparsely constructed buildings scattered on dozens of little peninsulas. A great archipelago so densely populated with eastlists that it appeared more like a network of rivers. The only clue to its inhabitants was a heavily fortified complex in the foreground of the institute bearing the flag of the People's Republic of China. Zero watched motorcade after motorcade drive in and out of what seemed to be like a busy day for the residents and diplomats there. A few kilometres past, it stood an array of tallish 60s style brutalist buildings with large antennas and satellite dishes on top. The propaganda centre of Fromm, he presumed. It was impossible for him not to feel a little disappointed by the view, expecting at least a more vibrant, populated scene with evidence of fluid cultural exchange. What's more, in the distance, the crackle of fireworks, perhaps gunfire, had begun to filter through the cold air while a police-light helicopter overhead made hastily for its destination. The whole spectacle was a bit of a letdown. Where was this AAA society, a city fit for the future? It seemed more like an enormous European backwater. He stepped back from the verge and slipped his hands into the acquired and overall pockets. There was nothing to do but stare. Some birds he recognised from his bedside window flew by, acting to only compound the anticlimax of his ascent to the top of the institute. He sighed quizzically, mouthing to himself, what the hell were they on about? The way people described it was as if they had idealised it from a newspaper pullout or simply repeated stats collated by some quangle detailing the supposed best cities in the world for quality of life. And then when an explosion erupted in the distance, Zero was further convinced that From was far from the place it had been hyped to be. Blind patriotism corrupts the thinking classes, he thought. He never doubted people's best intentions in trying to portray From as a decent place to rendezvous and visit or even live in before dying. But from where he was standing, it was hard to imagine what all the fuss was about. Moreover, Zero came to the conclusion that From may be on the brink of civil unrest. The cold wind was chilling his brain. He noticed the skin in his fingers had begun to harden and crack from the dry air. All expectations dashed, he started to think about heading back, while pitying and detesting the sight of the trolley that stood there as he left it. There was a pathetic solitude to it that eked of himself, stationary, a sort of meek vulnerability. Even the way the wheels squeaked as he pushed it back into the elevator reminded him of his own juvenile whining. A small gap separating the ground and the elevator floor caused all the jars to rattle loudly as he moved on through with little care for their condition. Excitement turned to anger. Adventure regressed into indignant frustration. He hadn't noticed, but the elevator car circled to the back of the institute instead of downwards from where Zero arrived. He was so caught up in self-pity that it didn't matter a jot anyway. Exiting out into a hot, pungent place, a man greeted him who looked like a concierge and said, "Welcome, Mr. Eck." He had alighted at the institute canteen. "You can leave that there. I'll take care of that," said the concierge, gesturing towards the squeaky trolley. Zero blushed, embarrassed by his rusty partner, yet the man went out of his way to make things easy for him, taking his hat, pointing him in the general direction of where to go. Fence's scarlet face quickly gave way to a normal blood flow. Starting to play with his hair, nervously wrapping the strands around his fingers, he was unsure of what to do or how to act. The canteen wasn't your typical meat and potatoes type of place. It was a sprawling restaurant with all different types of smart-looking folk dining and socialising. Old wood panelling encased great sheets of glass within a globe-like structure where one could gaze down on From with a bird's eye views of the happenings. "Mr. Eck? Zero Eck?" shouted a woman sitting alone at a table. "Yes, so it's you. Hello, doctor," replied Zero, startled. "Well, the institute kept quiet about this place. Why wasn't I told about this place when I arrived?" The doctor pulled a wry smile as Zero sat down at the table in the chair opposite her while a waiter poured some table water. "Want to know something, doctor? I'm sick of living in this wretched building," he continued. Then finally happening upon a nice restaurant like this only makes matters worse. No one tells me anything. I was harassed by a fellow patient in the toilet just the other day. People in the ward are brought in and then flung out in poor health. It sets me on edge. I can't see any good reason for me to be here. When will I be allowed to leave? The doctor was nonplussed. Rather continued forking the salad on her plate, arranging it in small piles, puncturing its epidermises with the silver tines as she prepared to deliver a speech, something rehearsed long in advance. Still dressed in a porter's overalls, Zero fought to refocus minds by flooding the doctor with a series of questions in the event of claims of impropriety on his part for visiting the roof sans permission. She looked up, lips pursed. He sensed her dressing down. "Mr. Eck," she said condescendingly. "It's Zero," he said. "Please just call me Zero." "Ah, it's Zero today, is it? You would refer to me following a series of incidents that indicated repeat episodes of amnesia paired to, and I quote from your patient notes, an uncanny knack for fanciful thoughts and delusions of grandeur, quite inappropriate for a place like From. From? But I've never been to From. Please don't interrupt me while I'm talking, she continued. If I'm to give you a few pieces of advice moving forward, the first would be to quit your horseplay in the corridors. Everyone's sick of it. The Institute demands flawless behaviour when a resident is seeking discharge. Also, I would strongly advise that you read up on the manifesto From. There you can find all the mottos and articles that should be learned by heart if one is to gain access to its immunities and benefits. Mottos? Zero wasn't sure what that word meant. The mottos are simple, said the doctor. There's 3 in total. Every day counts. Whatever you do, don't fail. And don't stand out from the crowd. There are many articles to read, said the doctor. All of them are guided by the 10 laws that are central to the Constitution and must be adhered to. Number 1, you're not to think that you are anything special. Number 2, you're not to think that you are as good as we are. Number 3, you're not to think you're smarter than we are. Number 4, you're not to imagine yourself better than we are. Number 5, you're not to think you know more than we do. Number 6, you're not to think that you are more important than we are. Number 7, you're not to think you are good at anything. Number 8, you're not to laugh at us. Number 9, you're not to think anyone cares about you. Number 10, you're not to think you can teach us anything. Zero was baffled. It sounded like a socialist hellhole. He had tried hard to understand, listened to everything the doctor was saying, even thought about Clean coming regarding his trip to the roof, looking down through the clouds, but the doctor's visage kept changing shape while she talked. So many different facial muscles contracting and relaxing, rising and then falling to the rhythm of her voice. Almost every sentence the doctor uttered was accompanied by a single unique look. She was at once articulate, oozing with confidence, but yet also chameleon-esque. In the short time it took her to deliver an overview of the top manifesto, Zero registered dozens of different expressions. How, he wondered, might she appear to her family upon returning home at night? Perhaps she collapsed in a heap of exhaustion after work, stared silently at the walls, responding monosyllabically only when prompted in order to conserve her energy at the bell toll of tomorrow's humdrum, the morning toil. What about the children? A husband? Perhaps it was a mother that acted more like a wife. Did she live in a big house? Was she happy or just plain sad from living alone or from a bad childhood? In time, he would realize that it wasn't that he wasn't interested in what someone was saying. He was just more interested in the people themselves. Given your conduct in the run-up to the admission to the Institute, said the doctor, it's important a few of these are paid special attention to, especially the last law. Sorry, can you repeat it? Said Zero. The last law, I mean, the doctor huffed and puffed in reply. Haven't you been listening? Haven't you been listening to a single word I've said? If you can't remember things, then write them down. She turned her attention back to the lunch, chomping away at the salad parts, shaking her head as an empty look of betrayal blanketed her face. What seemed a tad silly to Zero was the opposite of the doctor's understanding of the points and tenets of the manifesto. She regarded them as scripture, rules that needed obeying. Zero was just a stupid little boy and feeling to remember them. You're not to think you can teach us anything, she repeated in a soporific tone Zero found a little patronizing. The Institute can rest assured that you'll have no problems with the 7th law From, she said. Later, Zero made for the Institute library and sought out the fat manifesto containing the 10 laws, a few articles and some literature about the Constitution. The doctor clocked out for the day. She lived a short cycle from the Institute in an upmarket part of From, affordable only due to her estimable profession. Despite intolerance for slackers and impatience afforded Zero, she did think of her patients, sometimes deeply so, but her loyalty towards From never wavered. Everyone and everything else was subordinate to it. She was an acolyte, From's ideal. The doctor's apartment was not bad at all. It was large, sure. The windows stretched high and wide to the north and west side of the block with the sun set in the late evening summer sky, yet there was always an irksome flatmate hanging around, inhibiting our private thoughts in space. Once, while courting a boy, they smoked in the balcony with the warmth of a summer solstice sun beating down on their pale faces. They joked and laughed about nothing much of importance. Both were submissive in body language, heads light from nicotine, but the doctor wasn't really a smoker. She disapproved of it generally, the smell, health risks, etc. Her thing was to keep a pack tucked away in a drawer somewhere, a secret stash to play good host when the need arose. Aside from the guilt of the odd straight, she lived a relatively quiet life and in good health. She struggled with relationships, but that was fine. It'll happen when it happens. Don't have the time, need to focus on work, she would often tell friends. Tired of sharing an apartment and yearning for relative solitude, cycling became a favourite pastime of hers, occasionally slowing an approach to peek into strangers' homes. Families happily gathered on weekends after she would steal herself to save more cash to buy her own semi in the future. Eventually she would meet someone, maybe tiring out. Together they might take forest walks with their dogs on winter wanderings, buy a coal and barbecue some corv in the cold-driven snow whilst discussing centrist politics as they now. Notions like these were particularly sharp in the run-up to Christmas, and in loftier moods, she wondered what it would be like to have a baby of her own one day, scrolling list after list of popular names, settling Nana for a girl and Nelson for a boy. Whenever friends or casual acquaintance slept over, she'd be sure to keep her dreams to herself, lest she scare them off. Regardless, it wasn't a done thing to look to the future, regale past achievements, even acknowledge or express feelings of contentment or self-actualization in From. On another occasion, when she was out in the balcony sharing a fag with an old friend who was curious of her work at the Institute, well, everyone on the outside knew it was a human refectory, a place to focus minds, first to harness and then dispel inappropriate energies in ways unbefitting of From's image. The friend asked her about the patients there, current programs, how success was fostered. What were the indicators in residents destined for failure? Questions like that. There's nothing to it really, she said, other than the allocation of manifestos to look at all the old pictures of From as it stands to appear. I'm obliged to uphold the values bestowed on me as part of my status in the building and in From as a whole. If I'm to improve my standing, I must be seen to be enforcing that. Most of the residents, we pie them off with reading material that overwhelms them with information detailing all the different rules and regulations, which most don't bother to read anyway. But the imagery is important, she said, especially to an outsider looking in. It enables them to paint a picture for themselves. The majority acquiesce, but there's always a few that break the mold. We have a word for those troublesome mites, she said. We call them cows, or the building cows. Life carried on like this for the doctor. It was a regimented yet somewhat self-fulfilling existence for her. The standards, the procedures of protocol, everything was geared towards From's definition of progress, and she was dogged in delivering that. Nothing would be allowed to compromise her self-perceived status. From time to time, she would engage in conversation with relative strangers she smoked with. Most would half listen to them with the same old rehearsed spiel. Others might make suggestions that she step aside for a while, not to make way for a competitor or shy away from duties, but simply to draw a little more perspective, size it all up, like Zero had in the roof. She felt more at ease talking with strangers, you understand. She had a deep-set fear for anything that might be divulged would make it back to the Institute, hence incur a black mark on her card, so to speak. Few things could be more presumptuous than violating the fifth law of the Constitution with its phraseologies, its language, and tone dressed to the nines in passive threats. You're not to think you know more than we do. And that's me, thank you.
Eric, that was fantastic. I love the way, I love the like deadpan, meticulous way you've unfolded this world here. Because in a piece of like, and this is kind in a piece of speculative fiction, which this is on some level, right? Like the world
Yeah.
building is so essential. And so often when you talk about world building, people think of like, phony languages and like what, and like sci-fi conceits. But what you've done here is you've constructed a world so delicately, like out of the intricate details of daily life. Like you have such a like meticulous, delicate way of swooping in on each of these individuals and really getting under their skin, really understanding their psychology, and even like the like little details in like the scene setting and when you're describing the environments, it all works together to create this like oppressive environment, this like very rigid oppressive environment, but without using any of the tricks that like dystopian writers usually use, right? There's none of the like really obvious heavy-handed 1984 shit. It's just this really slow, like incremental and very, I think, smart realization of like the rigidness of this society, and when the laws did drop, like yes, you were anticipating them, right? You were anticipating them because you had like this whole process of becoming acclimated to this world, which it's really effective stuff, Eric. I hope to at some point get to like read the novel in its entirety. What was the novel's name again?
So the excerpt you heard was from, but the novel is called Zero Ek.
Zero Ek.
Zero Ek, yeah. But yeah, no, thank you, William, for your thank you for your cutting and you welcomed review there. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Eric. Thank you
Yeah, no.
for sharing. Oh, sorry, Rudy.
I just want to say one thing I like about this. This is something that I liked about the Wolverine Town, the story we published yours on Misery Tourism. That also involved a dog walker in a way.
Yeah, I was actually a dog walker. I live in Stockholm, Sweden, and after I lost my first job here, I became a dog walker for a year. It's like a super great job, if only it paid well, but it doesn't.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, but like what I like, and this William touched on this already, but I just wanted to back it up. It's this kind of glowing hostility that like the setting itself has. It really does, and it rubs off on the people in a way that's logical, and it's like William said, it doesn't go into the easy directions that most like authoritarian dystopian sci-fi shit does. As you can feel like the demoralizing kind of hierarchical vibe to the people, and the psychiatrist, or well, I guess the doctor scene was awesome. Yeah. I really like that.
Yeah, I think I actually read back this chapter earlier today for the first time in a while, and it was good to read it back because I feel like it needs maybe one more edit to try and make things flow a little bit more better at the beginning, maybe some more dialogue or something, I'm not sure, but yeah, it was good to get back to it because I've not read it for a while. So this has been I think this has been a really, really important process of reflection as well as sharing this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Come back anytime.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So Sabrina is not here yet, I think. So Matt is up next.
Oh, perfect. Let me pull this up here. Yes, hi everyone. I'll be reading a couple of excerpts from my in progress chapbook, Sex Pest. The first one will be was published by Misery Tourism last week. It's titled Roslanyuk. It's a poem that's gotten a bit of a polarizing response. My favorite response comes from AJ Stanton on Twitter, who's described it as amusing, interesting, but utterly deranged, like what may be going through a QAnoner's mind after 12 hours of gooning to deep fake porn found on some dark web message board. But anyway, I had to share that one. That was funny. But anyway, here's Russ Lanyuk. And if you're curious, the title is Hungarian. It literally translates to English as bad girls, but a more colloquial translation might be whores or sluts. If you've been to Hungary, you might understand the reference a little more. But anyway, here's the poem. Miklos Horvy went to orgies. Janos Kadar liked leather. Ferenc Salazi was executed for being vanilla. Imre Nagy died for the right to fuck. Gurksani loses elections because he's faithful to his wife. Seal was laughed out of parliament because he couldn't come. Every Hungarian woman has a vibrator budget. She won't jill off without scented candles or bath bombs. She's not considered a real woman until her first threesome. She dreams of horse cocks from her facial memories of the Kazakh steppe. Circumcision is worse than being a manlet. Instead of saying son of a bitch, a Hungarian will call you a piece of cum. If he's really mad, he'll say, lick my ass out. They stole that from Mozart, and it's the real reason they miss the Habsburgs. There are sex shops in the Budapest metro if you need lingerie on your way home from work. Prostitution is legal. Strippers vote for Jobbik, and the border wall is manned by retired porn stars. I know this for a fact. In Hungary, fascists fuck better. I was drinking with a fascist. He told me there was a club that had unlimited booze for only 10,000 forints. I was sold. We got a cab to the suburbs. I paid the entrance fee, and the clerk handed me a towel and pointed to the changing room. I said, what the fuck? The secret alt-right hangout in Budapest was a swingers club. I stripped and went straight to the bar, intent on getting every drop out of that 10,000 forints. The fascist met his uncle there, a heartwarming family moment as they tag teamed a chunky six with feta cheese thighs. The CK Land flag hung over the door, far out of reach of any missed money shots. I was approached by an accountant with glasses and biceps, the kind of man women think of when they say they like nerdy guys. He said, I'll let you fuck my wife, but only if I can watch. She was 20 pounds overweight and biting her lip, staring at my hairy man tits. I thought about jumping in the Danube and never coming up. Instead, I chugged my drayer and said, sure. She knew how to play the part at least, moaning mechanically, thrusting her hips, even translating fuck me into English in hopes of rescuing my fading heart-on. Every so often, I caught a glance of her husband in the corner, shucking his corncob with peasant efficiency. The bedroom was decked out in Bronx crack house decor, complete with fake graffiti and a neon sign for that authentic Times Square 1970s manslaughter aesthetic. The remnants of my dignity spilled out on her fat cheeks, dribbling down to her pancake titties. Afterwards, the husband offered me a cigar. The wife said she loved how my balls slapped against her clit in perfect rhythm. I had done my part to undo Trianon, my hard dick and instrument of American soft power, paying reparations for Woodrow Wilson with my cum. Trump will make me ambassador. The US embassy will become a whorehouse. Serbia will give back Vojvodina in exchange for 5 orgasms a week. Transylvania will revolt because Romanian women are dead fish and the men are premature ejaculators. When the war with China starts, I'll lead the Magyars into battle with promises of Asian GFs. The steppe nomads are back. The horse lords will reign supreme over Beijing again. But this time, they will come from the west, and they will not wield arrows or swords, but cock rings and dildos. Our Genghis Khan will own a porn studio, his tree trunk penis, the envy of every housewife. And seldom will become a public health crisis, solved with sweet 16s at the local bordello. That's the Hungarian way, a chicken in every pot, and a load in every hole. And that's Russ Lanyuk. The second poem I'd like to read is one that is still very much a work in progress. This hasn't been published yet. It's called Last and First Woman. My ex told me she didn't date writers because when you fuck another writer, you'll often find yourself discussing Maoist theory and your sister, that bitch, mid-thrust. I was thinking about this when I hissed at you. We're the last generation that knows how to fuck while you were gagging on my cock. You grunted approvingly, but that could have just been because that was the first dick you'd sucked in weeks. Sex has been canceled because it spreads COVID. The future is mutual masturbation via the Oculus Rift. It's grooming kids on Discord. It's simping on Instagram. It's spreading peanut butter on your crotch and inviting the family dog to lick it off. It's buying and burning gay porn while clutching a rosary in your stubby little fingers. This is no country for the horny, and there's no Byzantium for us to sail to. I've been gentrified out of the human race. You have too. I can see it when you laugh at my bad jokes, when you despondently puff on my cigarettes, when you twitch and convulse from my fingers because you haven't been touched in so long. The Zoomers will never know this. They'll never lose their virginity because a girl in their dorm was bored. They'll never go to a rub and tug just to enjoy masseuse sliding their tits all over their faces. They'll never have an existential panic over disappointing hotel sex, and they'll never understand why they should do something stupid for the story. The millennials perfected sex. Gen Xers only fuck ironically. Boomers get divorced from their high school sweethearts and log on to ED forums, bragging about their masturbation habits at age 73. Only we millennials got it right. Erica Jong's zipless fuck made real. Casual lying in the name of horniness. Pained awkwardness the morning after. High fives from the boys at the bar. The ugliness is the point. If you want to see attractive people fucking, go watch porn. The real world is 4s and 5s, lapping each other's fluids and insisting that bitch tits and tummy rolls are hot. My last real girlfriend dumped me because I wouldn't move to Sweden. I split a teenager's hymen and then went to fuck whores in Manila. My ex is writing a novel about what a piece of shit I am. And the first girl I ever loved has probably dyed her hair blue and married a softball player because that's what I do to women. Being horny is all I'm good for. And as the Cthulhu of libido is banished, I'm taking my chances in the sunken city. The white picket fence isn't going to happen, nor the condo with 2.1 kids. I won't even have the pleasure of being a dink. If I'm lucky, I'll get shot in the head because I'm hoarding cans of beans. But realistically, my neighbors will smell a smell, and the state will have to pay to dump my body in a hole, which is kind of punk rock to be fair. And 10,000 generations will end with my cum pouring down my throat, your throat. But it's all right. Everything is all right. That memory of you telling me how good my dick tasted and how beautiful this poem was made it all worth it. And when the air raid sirens go off, I'll unzip my pants, think of that moment, and smile. And those are my poems. Thank you.
Matt, holy shit. Matt, holy shit. These are phenomenal. You know what? This is like anti-erotic poetry, right? It has the pretense of erotic poetry. It has the content of erotic poetry, but it definitely does not have the tone of erotic poetry. Instead, this is like the erotic poetry of despair. Like, and what I really love here, though, is above and beyond the way that you've turned all the expectations for this kind of poetry on its head, is how expansive it is, right? Like the one we published, yeah, it's about hooking up in a foreign country, but it becomes about like the Mongol horde on the steppes and it on the Cossack steppe, and it becomes like about the entire history of a people in a way that is really, really dark and really bleak. You know, that you and your second poem does something similar with the idea 10,000 generations coming to the end, basically with a wasted ejaculation, right? Like there's this sense of like history being literally drained and being literally like reduced to like this hollow eroticism. Sorry, Matt, you were going to say something.
Nah, I hate sex scenes, and
Yeah, so do
well,
I.
I guess you can kind of guess the state of mind I am when I write poetry, when I write in general. But yeah, I think I was originally going to build that second poem as a poem for millennials who are convinced they're going to die alone. But yeah, it's a sex pest in general is I guess it was me because kind of it's not auto fiction, but it's me trying to just kind of work out my past and some anecdotes from people I've known and things I've experienced and try to make it funny at least. I hope
Very
some
funny.
people laughed, I hope.
I laughed. I know I laughed very loud at the corn cob shucking line. The peasant, like his peasant ancestors. That really got me. That
Now,
really
was
got
it?
me.
I laughed too, but was it efficiently or deficiently? Because I
Efficiently.
okay, so I took it as a peasant burn, but you know what? Either way, it was funny and good.
Yeah, when I read the the Ross Leonard, the first one first, I laughed really fucking hard at that, and it's the little like there's a line in there, the memories of the Kazakh steppe or something, the fucked by horse cocks and the racial memories of the Kazakh steppe. That one, and I like in your second poem that you read tonight, the I think it's a relay reference or the relay the Thulu shit, basically.
Yeah.
That one really made me fucking go. I was like, holy shit, that made me lose it. But I like how you in both of these you take like it's almost like doomer sex shit. It's like it has a very foreboding tone to it. Like William said, it's not your ordinary like sex poetry, and it really the tone comes through in a way that keeps it like playful and like malleable enough so that it's interesting, but it really like it has a real foreboding quality to it that most of this shit doesn't really. Like I don't a lot of erotic poetry that you read is very like kind of boring and staid and sort of like like it drags, but this has like a the tone of this I think really does help with help kind of qualify the vibe, the feels, the of like the sex shit too. It goes with it. It fits with the sex shit in a way that's really weird but also interesting.
So I'm totally hearing things because I just heard Rudy say that normal sex pool tree shit. So
Sex pool shit. No, I didn't say anything about sex in the pool, but
well, poultry, no, the chickens.
oh, chickens. Oh.
Yeah, but never. Anyway, sorry, didn't.
Either way,
I also agree with Rudy's comments, though. It was Matt. I think you obviously published Kobe by me, but that was my first interaction with Terror House, so I hadn't read or heard any of your work, and I just felt I knew that there was a sensibility there that was similar to what I like to do, and now I'm just thinking, geez, someone has read something here that I wish I had written, and I think a lot of people here read things that I think are very good, or like I would like to write something that I would have liked to have written that thing. But yeah, you've done that, but addressing the things or topics or dynamics that I like to. So that was really cool to hear you here. I hope you attend more because I don't know how often you've attended before, but anyways.
I think this is my first time actually, just because this is the first time I've actually had some work I wanted to actually, I felt confident presenting.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it checked all the boxes for me, which is a very personal review, which means nothing critically, but just, I really like that. I look forward to reading more of what you said it was going to be. Sex Past is the.
Yes. I still need to finish the first draft and send that out to my beta readers, but I'm hoping to Terror House will be publishing that later this year, hopefully.
Well, you'll have my wallet's open.
Thank you so much, Matt. That was awesome. And as Josh said, I hope you'll come back in the future, and definitely don't feel like you need to have like shit that's done. One of the like big thrills of Misery Loves Company for me is like people will bring stuff that's a work in progress. And I feel like sometimes Josh can attest to this. Sometimes he's read the same story 3 or 4 times in different variations to try out. Anyway.
I treat this as a fucking workshop, man.
And I kind of like to think of it as being a little bit workshop, a little bit reading. Anyway, thank you so much, Matt. That was awesome. Rudy, were you going to say something before we move on?
No, I just said it's Santa's workshop.
Oh, all right. Gigi is up next.
Boo!
Oh, Josh. Josh, you're going to be a problem tonight.
Seems like it. I just have 2 quick poems. I'll just read them. These are quick poems. The first one's called Lollipop. Sailors refer to ships as women. You can picture their smiles as they sing. Wash her wooden exterior. These songs of other mothers rest together in her belly. Little drones in the queen. And the second one is called Big Citrus Smile. Face the avalanche with a spoon. Wait a second, that's ice cream. That's all I got.
Gigi, these are not like anything you've ever read before.
They are, because they're Brodigan influenced, and everything he does. Not
Oh,
everything.
shut up, Josh.
No,
Shut up,
no.
Josh.
I mean this
No,
in a
no,
good
no.
way. No, I love it. I actually love them, and I love them because I don't know. Maybe I realize that sounded like a criticism, but I feel like actually I understand what you're saying, the tone or whatever. But I think that fundamentally there is something there, and I really like everything
more-
he's done.
It's
That's
more than the
all.
tone, Josh. It's more than the tone. Josh, I appreciate your enthusiasm tonight. But for me, it's more than the tone. It's that these poems are anchored by images, and they're not just anchored by like images, but by like a surreal associational kind of images, which is very different, I think, Gigi, than what you've done in the past, because often your poems are these meticulously constructed little like social jokes, right? About like awkward social situations, or about like or kind of observational. Whereas this, it feels like you're kind of dragging the reader into a whole different kind of dimension in terms of how these poems are like experienced, because like the kind of associational like logic of images in that first poem, where you go from the women to the hive, right? And it from the ship to the women to the hive, and from the avalanche to the ice cream. It's really good, Gigi, and I hope you'll write more in this style.
Thank you.
Yeah, the one with the ship, the first one there, really like how warm that one feels. It just feels warm and like good. I don't know, like the tummy thing, like, you know, obviously there's like the association with, like, you know, being in the womb or whatever, but it's like a ship. And like then the way you go into the like social insects imagery there too towards the end, it's really, really good.
Thank you. I wanted to write something cute because I don't think I've done that. So I think I did that.
I
Thank
think
you.
you
Definitely.
succeeded. Yeah. Thank you, Gigi. Okay, Josh, it's your turn now.
Well, I wanted to do okay, yes, no, and that was I realize now that why I'm being so shitty tonight is probably because I'm part of the New York City literati now by virtue of tomorrow's event. So, but no, Gigi, I really like those. Also, though, William, you disappeared. Everybody's disappeared all of a sudden.
I'm still here.
I'm here.
Okay, so
No, am I after Josh or
Oh, I'm sorry, Rudy.
I can go after Josh.
Supposed to be before GG, but I'll put you after Josh. Sorry.
So
Rudy, let's do
that actually works because I did want to do something different, but I also wanted to do something that fits in with what William was saying about how shitty I am at these things. In that, I wanted to read Florida Man because I'm supposed to read. So nobody, like virtually no one here, is going to be in New York tomorrow. That's right? Right? Like there is, and I
Yeah,
want.
Grapes will be, but I think Grapes is the only one. Someone correct me if I'm wrong.
So all I wanted to do was I kind of wanted to do a dry run. This is how I use this place. Not only do I use it as a workshop, so now I'm just gonna. But no, I'm worried about time. I wanted to read Florida Man because that's the main. We only have 5-6 minutes. I want to see what it clocks in at, Florida Man, and then I want, and then I wanted to play the 2 songs I've written, which that's the experimental part, which I haven't done. If that's cool, if there's
it's only 9:15, Josh, and it's only Rudy and Michelle after you, and
So,
maybe Sabrina if she shows up.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry to expose many of you, probably something you've heard before, but this is really me just trying to figure out this, and then the songs, we'll figure out the audio after. So I'm just gonna read Florida Man if that's cool, and I'm gonna. There we go. So it's Florida Man. I do another line, and it's like it feels like I'm in my own time zone. I'm in the bathroom of my basement apartment, cutting up some more blow with my government-issued health card. I like the irony. My friends are just outside in the kitchen. The only thing separating us is the door. They're singing now. That's Yuri. He's come over for one of my sausage parties. There are girls here too, because it's not that kind of sausage party. We're literally here to eat the sausages that Yuri prepares and listen to some house music. We might go to the Portuguese sports bar across the street later, play the weird interactive sex game on the console by the front. I'll show you what it looks like. And then here I'm going to hold up a picture of it's like a spot the differences thing, and it's two sexual images. Anyways, Yuri is shouting because the sausages are sizzling. That is their song, and he is the conductor. If my nose weren't perpetually stuffed, I think they would smell good to me, the sausages, this symphony of blood and gristle. I remain optimistic. It seems plausible that my brain will learn to fill in the blanks for my nostrils like how it does with vision. We don't really see everything, you know. Our brains just make certain assumptions to round out the images that comprise a life. Like this one right now. I flushed the toilet out of habit. You are a peasant and your taste is provincial. Yuri is chewing somebody out for taking a sip of craft beer straight from the bottle. Philistine, another sip. He's in good spirits because it's months before his wife asks for a divorce. I know this because I just happen to be writing in the present tense about this one afternoon in the history of my life. April and Luca are here in the basement too. Nothing bad happens to them in the coming months. April ends up buying a Honda CR-V before summer ends, and Luca visits Japan. Luca is gay and adds to the diversity of my friends. If Luca were in a wheelchair right now, I'd have an even more diverse group of friends. I think suddenly about crippling Luca. It's important to consider these things. Mennonite fucking sausage, Yuri says, playing up his bounty, which he scored from a religious butcher in Kensington Market. He puts a plate of the greasy meat on the table. It's bubbling, and I really wish I could smell the meat, if only to counter its appearance. The blueberry venison looks like a gangrenous dick. I want to put that on my t-shirt. Mennonite fucking sausage, April says. She's drinking an Aperol Spritz. April elaborates on plans for her silk screening business. Boutique, definitely. And I realize I actually have no idea how to cripple Luca. April has relatives in Palm Beach and will never know self-doubt. At least she's yet to experience it, even today as I write this, while she takes her CR-V in for an oil change. Mennonite fucking sausage. I feel like if I wore that on a shirt, I'd be microaggressing everyone, I say. Make me one that says Zika. I'm arbitrarily injecting the Zika virus into conversations. Then I'm talking about the white sands of Pensacola, Florida, the winter retreat of my childhood. Did you know it lays claim to the world's whitest beaches? All that white powder. I wonder if I'm a Florida man. Hold on, going back to Pensacola, I say, heading for the bathroom. The trouble with Blow isn't the direct cost. I can get a half G for $40 from this Asian syndicate that operates like Uber. I just text them a location and they send a car. It'll either be the fat Asian or the bald Asian. Today I'm at the fat Asian. No, the trouble with Blow is that once you're willing to put $40 up your nose in an evening, everything else seems cheap by comparison. Everything is discounted. Everything's on sale. Pretty sure I spent $5,000 last year on the indirect cost of Blow. But I'm not thinking about that right now. Instead, I'm thinking about the white sands of Pensacola, how my feet felt on the beach, how the sand is hot enough to burn your souls. I could never work a 9 to 5, April is saying. She isn't wearing a bra, and I can see her nipples through her ribbed American Apparel shirt. Somewhere, a baby is being born with deformities that a mosquito net couldn't catch. And I go into the bathroom again, and the only thing separating us is the door. So that was Florida Man, and that clocks in at 4.5 minutes. So I'm gonna, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just treat it like this reading, and I'll exceed all reasonable limits. I'm just gonna read when I go there, and I'll just do another thing. So just William, do you know how to share audio? Because it was just
Sure.
Yeah.
I actually, Rudy, can you help me out here? You've done this a lot more than I have.
So you see the green button that says share screen at the bottom there?
Yeah.
You have to click that, and there's an option if you want to share audio. Well, you want to click the tab or whatever program it's on, and then
So
there's
it
an
says-
option.
So it says desktop, whiteboard, blah 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 blah.
What are you playing the audio from?
Ableton. So it says live. It does give an option to share from Ableton. Does
Yep.
that-
So, but there's a button after you click that, or maybe before that, you want to click on the bottom left-hand corner that says
Share
audio-
sound?
Share sound. Yep.
Okay,
Just make sure that one's clicked.
that is. All right. So like, okay, Cyril. I think it's asking permission. Sorry for the. Just William, like nod if sound is playing. Oh, it says. Nothing playing? No.
Nothing yet. Nope.
It says check, and it says it's working.
On the bottom, you have a little error, excuse me, that says the audio engine is off. Please click here to choose an audio device from live.
Uh-oh. Okay, can I possibly just send the files to Rudy and then maybe before or after he goes on?
Yeah. Do you have this as an MP3 or
Yeah,
like
yeah,
right
yeah.
now? Okay. Well, if you have that, you can go to your Windows player and just play it from there, and you can do the same thing, share sound from that just directly.
Oh, okay.
Unless you need Ableton to do something.
Is my screen, I guess it's still shared, eh?
Nope, it's minimized now, but
Okay, so I'm just gonna. All right, hold on. Share sounds and. Okay, if I click an audio file, can I just share that sound?
yep, you should be able to.
Okay. Okay, so basically I click an MP3 here. You're seeing my screen, right?
Yep.
Okay, so it should just work then.
Yeah, you should. As long as you're sharing sound, we should go over here.
But let me know if if you can't hear. I'm sorry, it's gonna be 2 songs. They're 4 minutes long, and that's it. But just William, nod if you can hear something. Once it
I hear it.
the washroom, but is my audio still? Yeah, we can all still talk. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so I'm sorry because Carter once played a guitar thing, and I liked it. And there's this one more short one. And then with that, yeah, is that because
Yeah,
that was?
yeah, go on, Josh. Go on.
But with the comments are the Gary Newman. I like the Gigi, but I think that Gigi already. Yeah, well, I hate to tell Gigi, but I actually play instruments.
Josh, just play it. Don't get self-conscious. Just play the song, Josh.
Sure. And this is the other one that so the thing is though I didn't mention this is I'm hoping they concurrently release this with the book and Sheila is gonna do vocals. This is the other one. That's good. That was all.
Josh, I know absolutely nothing about music. I can't even pretend to know anything about music, and I know even less about instrumental music. But
That was cool.
well, Foreskin says it was cool. So how can you how can you doubt the opinion of Foreskin?
Well, yeah, no, I'm sorry for my original plan was to not read anything and then just to play this because again, Carter did it, and I like what
Gosh,
Carter did.
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You didn't run long. Don't feel self-conscious about it. It was really they fucking rocked.
That digital? Or was that like actual instruments? Yeah, I don't know what it was.
It's called Ableton. If you can play instruments like I can, then you can just, you know.
Oh,
I'm
damn,
not
that's
very good
real-
at music. I wish I could get better.
Josh, honestly though, that was great. I feel
That-
like Rudy.
Yeah, I play many instruments myself, and I'm impressed.
Yeah, I play so many instruments you don't even know.
What kind of instruments do you kids play? Is it recorders now in school? Or
they-
Yeah, I think hot cross
Recorders,
buns.
I
They play hot cross buns,
Yeah,
I think.
I play the flute, the double bass, the cello, I'm
nice.
trying to think, the bassoon.
No,
Yeah.
you don't. You know what? I'm sorry, but the accent there is not a cello accent. You don't play the cello. I'm sorry.
I'm
not
sorry,
coming for-
but
you're
he
not
actually does have the accent to play the cello. I
Yeah,
don't
you're-
think you know, but he actually does play the cello.
Oh, he's showing you this cello. Holy shit.
Well,
Josh, you stand corrected, I guess.
Yeah, fortunately it exists like that.
Now scream your
Okay.
my name in your house.
Okay, kids, settle down though. I know you certainly came here with. Oh
I
wait,
don't
shit!
feel like
Okay.
this
I'm
is-
sorry. If you're gonna play the recorder, play the recorder. We got to hear this.
Daniel, you gonna play it?
What?
I thought I heard you start to play the recorder. If you
No,
don't
that,
play,
that,
No, I
that was
never tried to
Daniel.
play before, bro. I play the xylophone, I play the drums, and I that's kind of like play actually.
all right.
congratulations. So we all play a lot of instruments, and
Also, I
uh,
also used to play recorder. When I
and do you have a book coming out too? You know, we all do lots of things. It's all great.
Josh, are you jealous of these 12-year-olds? Josh, is this how is?
I'm sorry, but nobody here is 12.
I'm sorry. Anyway, kids, please, I'm gonna have to ask you to mute your mics and settle down a little bit. I know you've only come with the best of intentions. We do have to move on with the reading.
Can you just repeat my name?
Did I repeat your name again? Not again.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, kids. Okay. If you're gonna troll and I'll throw you out. But if you want to stick around, mute your mic. and-
No, I'm a
I'm
real
sorry, but I live in a cave and I don't know what troll means. Like, what does troll mean, really?
I think I think you know what troll means. I would be
You know, this is appropriate because my next story is for, or my next poem is for the kids.
I'm sorry, I live in a cave all the way in Cambodia.
Okay,
I have no idea
you-
what the word troll means.
Children are not saying anything interesting, and you ruined a brief moment of feedback I could have gotten. So you know what?
Josh, you're gonna get okay,
No,
sorry.
please.
Mute yourself. Mute yourself.
Kids, mute yourselves if you don't want to get kicked out. Josh, we need to feed Josh's ego. Okay, that's it, I think.
4 big guys.
Rip to foreskin.
F's in the chat for foreskin. Anyway, Josh, I think Rudy actually had something to say about your music, which is why he
Yeah,
yeah.
I really like, I guess, like I mentioned in the chat, Sonic the Hedgehog was one of my main things as a kid, and I really like the first one, how it sounds like that. And
Excuse me?
Just say justice for foreskin.
Justice for
justice for foreskin, free foreskin. But yeah,
Justice
this
for Daniel Tuna.
justice for Daniel Rip. But no, the second one I like because it sounds like it has a more like bright, upbeat type of feel to it, or like most industrial sounds got, you know, like the heavy like brown notes and the, you know, boom, 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 the heavy drums and all that stuff. That one has like a brighter note to it. It's really kind of different from a lot of stuff.
Well, do you know, Rudy, like, because the whole thing with industrial is like, so GG rightly called me out. It's essentially a just Gary Newman influenced stuff, but with a little bit of whatever I'm listening to. But Gary Newman influenced Nine Inch Nails like hugely.
Yeah.
But then he lost whatever he had, and then he ended up becoming a huge Nine Inch Nails fan and started to try and sound like them. But like my influence is like what influenced Nine Inch Nails. So I don't like Nine Inch Nails. I mean, I like elements, but I think that like I really don't like. I've tried and I wanted to because I knew where that influence stemmed from. But if you do like kind of brighter stuff, but that, yeah, I think you probably just like what I'm trying to rip off.
Newman, yeah, that sounds. I've heard of Newman. I hadn't really heard any of his music though. Obviously, I heard Nine Inch Nails, but no, it's cool. I don't listen to a lot of house or industrial, but I like what I hear. So
Well, thanks. And also, I just fucking wrangled children to be like, let them talk about me. And that's what I do with kids, though.
That was
Damn
a
kid.
supreme
You should-
Josh Sherman moment. That was among the most Josh Sherman of all Josh Sherman moments. Is
That-
literally fight. That could be in like a one of those dark slapstick comedies, like something the Farley brothers did. Just Josh Sherman fighting children for attention.
that basically reminds me of that statue. You know, the statue of the guy hitting the kids, or he's like a superhero, but he's like hitting the kids and they're flying away from him because they're kids, and he's like,
And the thing with them, the thing with children is, it's like I had ADHD, and also I realized that, and now later being diagnosed, but my demographic, we weren't diagnosed, right? And it's like, oh, you get all your medication and stuff, and you're still this shitty. I had to fight for this. I had to become who I am, like without any of your fucking coddling. And I know that's a Gen X sounding thing to say, but like, Jesus Christ, you have your meds. What's your excuse, right?
Just Josh, just imagine me hosting this every Friday night, completely unmedicated, without the aid of any substance, with just a glass of water that I've already finished.
Or iced tea,
Or iced tea.
sugar.
iced tea as a
sugar,
I need
substance.
a little bit of a kick, a glass of iced tea.
Sugar, one of the deadliest substances.
Okay. Thank you, Josh. Josh, did I hear you right? One last thing. This is from an album that's going to be released in tandem with your book. Is that the plan?
I'm trying to at least an EP something, because the music is like cocaine music, at least the 80s stuff, and some of the stories. I'm hoping to release at least a couple of them properly with vocals from Sheila, which will really change it, right? Like when you have, but yeah, that's the hope. We'll see. But I don't even know if I'm a publisher right now. And who knows what happens when I go to New York and become, already part of the New York literati, but when I really become entrenched. Anyways, I'm being annoying now. I'm going to cut myself off and mute myself. And next.
Thank you.
Oh man.
Thank you, Josh. Rudy, you're up next.
Oh, wonderful. So it's a pity those kids got thrown out of here, because this is actually a poem I wrote this week about child soldiers. It's inspired by this Mid-Journey image that I created a collage of a bunch of Mid-Journey images and used that as inspiration for the poem. So the jury is still out, I guess, whether this is an ekphrasis or not, and I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I think we need Blick to tell us if it's an ekphrasis or not. But basically, yeah, this is Joseph Kony in Candyland. This one's called Jawbreaker. Combat operations have begun. The opening engagements of Operation Jawbreaker, God Emperor Joseph Kony's 5-stage invasion of Candyland. As a soldier of the God Emperor, you look towards a blinding future. Behind you are the graves of your family. Grave of the Fireflies is a movie you watch where some yellow bastards got creamed, but the jaundice of the past will soon be lifted by cotton candy mouthfeel. You think about eating Sakuma drops, and if Sakuma drops his rucksack again, he's fixing to get beat. Yours is a life of pull-ups, no chin, though you've known chins, a pro, quiet you, and more than a few cons ever since the scientist Terrence Howard reduced the origami of quantum physics to a chatterbox, drawing dotted lines between everybody's destiny to create the ultimate war machine. Planes now fly into other planes, but not totally, as a suicide maneuver, as a way of crossing the boundaries of reality, of existence, of human imagination, the power of hydrogen, fuel reserves and mouths filled to capacity. Chin up, a euphoric orphan says. We will eat tomorrow, one way or another. It was years ago when the God Emperor discovered that the penultimate solution to world hunger was in another world. one where a person could just take a bite out of a rock, one where there are mostly short-handled shovels, because to subdue such a place is a children's crusade. The board is set, the pieces, you, your peers, placed at the starting line. The rules to the game: insert at LZ plum, rendezvous with elements of the 999th, obey orders. The first order from the God Emperor's own mouth: in a post-Iraq and Afghanistan world, the doctrines of force have changed. Now is the time of the child. You can only move forward, my sweethearts. Plum was fully expected to be like entering hell, 60 to 80% projected casualties, if anyone is counting. You aren't. It was said the trollish guardian czar of agriculture would weaponize his own purple progeny, turning them to grenades as Kim turned pine cones in his head. But as camel crocs touch sweetgrass, there is only a hushed calm, the ellipsis of gentle clouds as soldiers snap selfies at the candy cane mile marker. The very first night, friendly airdrops arrive, soccer balls. All rations are on-site procurement, and non-personal metal gear is to be stowed in the rear to prevent a phenomenon called saccharine erosion, which is the joyful rust of decidedly unjoyful implements, tanks, bombs, mortar tubes. You leave behind a lot of ammunition, all but what you can line pockets with. 7.62 full metal jackets are exchanged for light coats, and the tingly staccato of My Morning Jacket riffs from the political officer's ghetto blaster. In a scrimmage ball game that takes place in the evening, you push the buttons of Carly, a girl missing an eye that you feel some type of way about, then push her around, taking for granted safety and readiness and the hard posture you are told to maintain at all times. That's an immediate yellow card from the ref, your commander, meaning you will not be crossing the Rainbow Bridge anytime soon. And in fact, will be sent forward in advance of the main column, scout duty. He doubles the infraction, 2 yellows. When you get mouthy, a visceral corporal punishment that will stay on your record like a stubborn stain of jam, hampering advancement and restricting your video game R&R. So at this point, you might as well forget about Freeman. The peppermint forest from Command's intelligence is filled with partisans, but intelligence has never won anyone Candyland, a race that's not a track meet or a marathon, but instead a time bane, banal and filled with sweet nothings. Everyone is already sick of canes, both the kind applied to asses and those that give other bathroom troubles. So the decision is made to push on. Someone catches movement among the striped trees, but it's only the wind or motion dazzle. And it's frigid here, and tales of King Candy's hatchet man, an apple cheek faggot who the God Emperor named as the Jack of Hearts in his deck of war criminals, dissolve like sharp spinners of hard treats and the gabbers of NCOs, without the good effect of a frosty mouth. By month's end, the success of the operation is apparent, too obvious for anyone to mention, and actually a sore subject for many ranking officers who wanted medals instead of gumdrops, so you'd better not mention it. The advance is only halted by the need to raise the licorice forest and burn its remains, the pretense for this being capture Lord L himself, the ace of spades. But really, it's because nobody likes licorice, that awful black tar substance which has currently become currency, literal black gold for anyone trying to virtue signal about their disinterest in kitty foods. You get into an argument with your CO concerning who likes licorice the least, and he's like, well, when I was 12, it was fine, but I would eat anything then. He pulls rank on you when you question his like of pizza, mostly because the jump portals have been sparse, logistical issues, and not even so much as a bargain pie can be brought to bear. No, there aren't even 2 pepperonis to rub together, and you wish this was like the days of infield when the bodies were stacked high, and that sucked, but at least you could lick tallow if you weren't Sikh or whatever, and whatever, you are Sikh and tired. Ren. The low-grade tummy ache has become a persistent anti-occupation force. Your mood is morose molasses, and the card you're wearing on your sleeve is bluer than an ocean of sadness or the house with the blue little windows. Quagmire is a term that's never mentioned, Shush monster at every time it emerges from pouty licks, but giggity, giggity, what you wouldn't give for a round thing in your face that wasn't caramel or granulated or grandma baked. And fuck, you're now considering licking shots at your betters, the CO, the jaunty logistics captain who can't stop mentioning her sweet tooth, the fucking general who does the Mal Jane routine at every muster, taunting people with, do you want to run this ship? While the whole thing is rudderless by design, you can only go forward. You wonder if King Candy is enjoying his heart-shaped, candy-shaped spider hole while you think of making an exit strategy in your skull. The insurgency MVP at Invasion plus 400 days is type 2 diabetes. It has claimed responsibility for a certain captain's demise, claiming digits for prestige, even though the tarnished brass says an improvised explosive device killed her. You are well aware of every gram of sugar in your body, even as your soul slips away, shrinking below its 21-gram serving size. They're starting to fire off rounds for no reason, and the R&R fights are legendary as kids to adults use game controllers as odd-shaped stress balls. Crunch. Though you can't add, it seems like the dead people are more prominent now. The sweet smell, is it cadaverine or corn syrup? The cotton candy fields are on fire, vengeful pyres for the dead. We haven't seen not one, sir, you say. One what? The colonel is sifting through red tape, finding strands to tie regular army men to the railroad track of service. One anything. The colonel is an older gentleman, an uncle or your father, in another life where you hadn't murdered him. He sighs, then reads aloud from the manual of field. You are allowed to go back to your post. You are allowed to follow my commands. You are allowed to die for your God Emperor. He's doing that thing now that your father did, instructing you with bullshit he knows is bullshit, and it gets to you. Ari murdered him. He's sucking on a lollipop picked fresh from the fields. You ball up, close the distance between fist and face, slugging for his puffed out cheek, trying to make it a jawbreaker. Crunch. The brig is in a Navy ship in the chocolate swamp, which remains, despite cries of, we need a chocolate city. Every doggone gun is trained on you, outwardly not lacking, but there is a lack of ammo, as even the most fucking of the fucking new guys knows. The stack of red cards they've given you has landed you here. Time out. You float and float as treacly bubbles emerge from the fathoms of milk and cocoa to erode the hull, tooth enamel, combat effectiveness, and all the other things. You earn another red card for serving an MP with chocolate of a different nature. They beat you. You were beaten, so you attempt to strangle yourself with stained underwear. That's 3 more red cards. Enough to finish the game. And that's it.
Before I say anything, I just want to say something. Licorice is actually really fucking awesome. Licorice is delicious, and I won't hear anyone say otherwise.
I like licorice myself, but I know, like, as a kid, like, a lot of people were like, ooh, licorice.
Yeah, I know. But man, this is eye-poppingly good. This is, you are on a fucking, I did not read this before, by the way. I know you posted it on Substack earlier today, but I didn't get a chance to read it before now. And oh my God, listening to you read it, man, there's so much shit here. I put a whole bunch of quotes in the chat as we were going. Man, the references, as usual, like for your work, this is deeply referential, but man, the way the references are weaved in here, the 21-gram serving size of your soul, god damn, the fucking the use of the fucking genius, I think, conflation of the deck of playing cards, the deck in the game, basically, with the infamous fucking deck of terrorist playing cards, or like that the Bush administration had for Afghanistan. Like the way that, oh my gosh. And the thing is, thematically, it holds together so fucking perfectly. The invasion of like Candyland by child soldiers, right? Like the thematic through line here is pure Rudy Johnson, but it's totally fucking intuitive to a brain that isn't Rudy Johnson too, which I think is something I think that you've really started to hit a fucking home run with this project, with the Midjourney project, because both of these poems, the one you read here and the one from last week, are I think among your best work, and also like among your most, this is going to sound bizarre, but among your most approachable works, I think, because it manages to like take everything that makes your work interesting, which is like the fact that it is like deeply referential, all the puns and wordplay, the like high concept stuff, right? And present it in a way that I think is like compulsively readable and very easy for a reader who is not necessarily steeped in like the pool of references that you're pulling from to like grok immediately and to follow it clearly, I think. So I don't know, I just think I think this project is kind of like I don't know, has the potential to produce some of your best work is what I'm trying to say here.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Basically, I just wanted to touch a little bit on how Midjourney came into this. Midjourney is that AI that people are now using to generate images and stuff like the ones on the page at the bottom of the page here. So what I did is my process is basically I put all these prompts into Midjourney. Like one of the prompts, for example, is child soldiers fighting in Candyland with AK-47 rifles, Lisa Frank, war photography. And it takes all of that and like puts it makes an image from it. Basically, it's really kind of fucking magic. And I kind of have a history of using collage and stuff as part of writing. So when I found this thing, I was like, holy shit. I think Stuart Buck was the first one to show it to me. But it produces things that's like stock art can do, but much better. I mean, like you can put a style in there. Like I put Lisa Frank in there and it made it look like, the Trapper Keeper, shit. I mean, so yeah, it's a powerful tool, and everyone, even if you're afraid of AI for whatever reasons, you should take a look at it. It's definitely really cool. And that's all I'll show for Midjourney. But basically I took those and collaged them into the image at the top there.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It rocks. Thank you, man. So Sabrina is still not here, correct? I just want to make sure before we move on to the people who signed up during the reading. No, I recognize every name here. Okay, so maybe she'll show up next week then. Michelle is next. Or great.
Okay. So I have an NC-17 poem today. All right. It's titled Sex at the Fat Boy Slim Rave at Woodstock 99. Sex with a stranger at the Fat Boy Slim Woodstock 99 rave was great. I was rolling on E, dancing after sex with cum dripping out of my asshole as the beat unse, and as I fucking danced alone while the guy who was just fucking me was nowhere to be seen in sight. The topless girl in fairy wings and short bleached hair passes by and offers me more E. I shake my head no and scream in response, I'm already rolling. Security cheers, clears the path, and a limp body passes as it's being carried in a cot. My stomach turns in a knot. It wasn't the first bad body I had seen be carried away that day, but this one looked worse. Foaming at the mouth, I knew they must have OD'd, but there was something off-putting about her. Her with her panties down and top floating above her tits on her lifeless body. A nausea envelops me. I puke on the person next to me, who then pushes me to the ground, and nobody sees me fall. They just keep dancing while I'm there on the ground, dehydrated, unable to move. The dancing feet stomp on me. I die an unnoticed death from the stampede of a dancing crowd.
Holy shit. Holy shit. So First of all, we need more period pieces set during Woodstock 99. I feel like that's a pop culture moment that's kind of been forgotten. But I remember I was relatively young then, but I remember all the news reports, right, about what an absolute shit show it was. And I love the way you've structured this piece, though, because it goes from like vivid euphoria to terror like that. And it does it so effectively. The twist here comes, as I guess it would in real life, before the listener or the reader even fucking realizes that it's changed from this moment of like joyous derangement to just fear and horror. And then it's over. And it's, oh my God, it's really fucking good, Michelle. It's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that like shift mimics how the actual festival went. It's so good. Like
Yeah.
I love how like how the images and stuff, like you can smell Woodstock 99 in this poem. It's really, really fucking good. Like the imagery is just, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you, Michelle.
Appreciate it.
Adam is up next, and then Keith is going to close out the night.
All right. This is a short poem called Julian Barnes. It's dedicated to Foreskin. I read some of his stuff. It was good. It was English. He won a Man Booker Prize for a bad novel, but he wrote great novels too. Flaubert's Parrot, for example. One of his books was about his walking around in graveyards, thinking about death, writing about it. Nothing to be frightened of, he said. He said, you have to write like your parents are dead. So here I am thinking about writing, but not writing, drinking my own Kool-Aid, scratching Mon's pubis. A woman walks by, pale skin, infinitely pale. The sounds of pumps in an alley. Japanese letter magnets on a refrigerator. A chicken strip basket from an old DQ. Hockey warehouses, tube socks and tanned male legs. The state fair boys with their ejaculation circuits. Sears magazines, placing bets, ripping off chromies and hood ornaments. Rehab junkies making it behind the BK, scoring. A 2-for-1 pack of cool cigarettes stolen from a gas station somewhere. A roll of carpet half submerged in an urban lake. Crumpled scratch-offs in the pockets of crumpled suits. Poser freaks with white money. Middle state meth avatars locked in trailers. Others locked in skyways. All through winter, then summer. Dead carp, used textbooks. Bicycle addicts. Nalgene bears with tats and antics. Blockbuster fiends, hot nights. A violent freshman. Long hot days in the house of a single mom. A split level beneath a water tower. Ashtrays littered with ends, dust everywhere. A garage brawl in the night. Someone knocks out the single mom. The yellow pigment that tarries on a bruise. The neighbor girl from a century ago. The neighbor girl from hell. Her lunatic brother talking about a murder that went cold. Swag weed in a sandwich bag. Someone back from juvie. The crane game in a Perkins lobby circa 1996. Floods of indulgences. I think I'm psychotic. I think I am. I can't make money. I can't be healthy. I think books ruined my life. I think my friends are trying to kill me. If I die, I die. It's beautiful. Blah, 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 blah. That's it.
Adam, I love this poem. I've read it. I don't know if you've read it here before, but I've read it before a few times. And this is a really fantastic poem. And I don't think this clicked for me until listening to you read it this time, like about the frustrated desire to write. Like it's such a perfect encapsulation of like what makes us want to write in the first place, right? Like having an author that we look up to, and we look at the author's work and we take it apart and we fixate on it and we say, shit, I wish I could write like that. I bet I can write like that. And then we try to write and we get stuck. And I love the way that this is almost like a brainstorming poem, right? You get past that, you've read the book by Barnes and you've got the desire to write and you're like, well, what, but I got to write about something. What will I write about? And you have this like amazing stream of consciousness flood of images that is like the act of trying to write a poem and then becomes a poem, right? These images become like so incredibly vivid and so powerful, but you could tell, like you can feel the author like flipping through them like it's a flip book trying to find the one they want to write about. And then the ending is so like ironic and like bittersweet because it's like, well, I guess I can't write, right? Like the narrator or the author, you arrives at the conclusion that they can't write, even though they've just written this amazing stream of consciousness poem. And it goes back to Barnes and it goes back to the frustration of writing. I don't know. It's a really good fucking poem, Adam. It's really good.
So I can assure you that books have ruined your life, Adam, but also that the device that William's talking about is actually effectively done by you. And also one of my favorite short stories by John Fonte is essentially a prayer, a Hail Mary. The story is called Hail Mary. And you realize through the intensity of what he's writing that at the end of it, he realizes that he has a story to submit that will keep the landlady off his back, and that, oh, I've written something kind of, it's exactly that kind of thing. And I always like that kind of, because it's a different kind of postmodernism, because it is postmodernism, and that kind of stuff, that kind of narrative to me started to arise in the late 50s, early 60s, but it wasn't so obviously, it wasn't like John Barth. It wasn't like, there was a nod to the reader, and yes, it was self-reflexive, but I don't know, it skirts a different line, and this poem definitely had that, where it's in one way very obviously self-reflexive, but in another way it's not kind of winking at the reader and nodding. Actually, it's a little bit more visceral.
Yeah, that's a good point, Josh. That this isn't fundamentally, this isn't an ironic or meta poem. This is a poem very caught up in that act, and as you said, very visceral. Yeah. Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Adam.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. Thank you for letting me read it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And closing out the night is Keith.
Thanks, William. Well, I had some more serious pieces lined up to read, but I've made a last-minute change, and it's going to be a little bit different. Introduction. Buckle up. Hold on tight. The time machine is fired up and ready to go. We are all going for a ride. It is time to get down tonight. The double-barreled cannon, an artifact of the past. When the hands on the Pabst Blue Ribbon clock turned to midnight, the bartender came out from behind the bar holding a small electric spotlight in his hand, the cord dangling almost to the floor. They had been told about the spotlight, and it was at that point that Richard and Tim knew that their buddy Henry had told them the truth. Everything from this point on would be illegal, and Richard could feel the adrenaline rush through his body. He could feel his anticipation growing. Looking over towards the door, he watched the bouncer turn the lock. Everyone was safely secure, all locked inside the cozy, windowless cinder block building. The smells of cigarette smoke, weed, booze, cologne, and even a hint of perfume hung heavy in the stagnant air. This party was getting ready to start, and soon the honky-tonk would be a rocket. They could all feel it. This was it. This was what they'd been hoping for. It was the first part of what they had been promised. Richard and Tim caressed their sweating mugs of cheap draft beer. Henry offered a toast, and the three full mugs clanked in unison, sloshing suds onto the dingy shag carpet under their feet. It was only a few minutes earlier. that they had left the block party at the apartment complex and had all piled into the Galaxy 500, fully loaded and high as a kite. Tim had lost the bet, so he would be the designated driver. A few minutes before they left, Tim had quit drinking, so all was good. Henry, their experienced guide and friend, gave Tim the directions to the dive bar. Tim repeated them back to Henry. Head to the courthouse square. Go around the square to the Civil War double-barreled cannon. For exactly 12 miles, follow the road going in the direction that the cannon points. Just past the county line sign, the small building will be on the left, set back a bit from the road. Now, Tim was really smart, good at remembering details, and great at following directions, even when he was drunk. 10 minutes later, the Galaxy 500 was pulling into the dirt parking lot beside the nondescript block building with a faintly glowing Schlitz sign beside the only door. Richard bolted out of his shotgun position before Tim had even stopped the car. Henry, like a seasoned veteran escorting his friends into a brothel for their first time, slowly exited the car and waited patiently beside Tim's door, while Tim figured out how to get out of the car without falling on his face. The three amigos strutted towards the entrance like drunken peacocks. This was most definitely going to be a memorable rite of passage. Richard only hoped that if he made a mistake on this night, that it wouldn't be one with a lifetime of consequences. But he was with very close friends. They would all look out for each other. Back in the day, they had even taken a blood oath. Now, this event was a once-a-month Saturday night special at the legendary County Line Honky Tonk. Everybody at the university knew about it. No cover charge, way out in the boondocks. Other than cheap drinks, pool, and the jukebox, the only other way to spend money here was in the machines in the men's bathroom, quarters only. But there might be other opportunities. They just have to wait and see. Richard looked over at his buddies and could see their beaming smiles. He knew what they were thinking. Oh boy. So, it's a steamy Saturday night in Georgia, and Sunday school and church would be a few hours away. But Richard wouldn't be going this week, nor next week either. In fact, if this little charade was discovered, he probably wouldn't be allowed in church ever again, unless the preacher was here tonight. Richard and his buddies were going to burn in hell. No salvation, no redemption. Welcome to the Bible Belt of 1970s Georgia. Ah, the good old days. The days when the law looked the other way for some things and for some people. Tonight, there may even be some judges and lawyers and businessmen rubbing shoulders with the young college crowd and a few under 18 local teenagers. They would all be imbibing after the legal time, Saturday midnight, and then everyone would be treated to the show, which, of course, was not legal either. This was going to be a fun time, one they would always remember. And if they were lucky, someone may even break out some jars of moonshine. Henry had told them the shine stories and what that drink of the devil led folks to do. Looking around the room, Richard's eyes zeroed in on a few girls. They were easy on the eyes. He knew that the girls were in for a treat. They just may not know it yet. By being here and by the way they were conducting themselves, Richard knew that they were very special girls. Tonight may be a first, but it wasn't his first. Now he's getting even more excited. Seeing the girls made him think about his girlfriend, who had left his apartment that morning to go to her family's home for the night. It was for her grandmother's 69th birthday party. In honor of her grandmother, they had given each other a really good birthday present that morning. It should hold them over. But the morning's memory was vanishing from his head because Richard knew that in 12 hours, his girlfriend would be back from her visit and they would have their Sunday afternoon tryst. making up for the lost time on this Saturday night. He'd make sure to keep some gas in his tank after this night's big party. Sometimes Richard may be a little bit egotistical and narcissistic, but he can't help himself. His friends know that Richard has something that they don't have, so they just leave that can of worms unopened. Richard watches the bartender saunter over to the wall opposite the bar. There's a full-length rectangular mirror on the wall. It's nice and clean and shiny. It's kind of like the one that's on the back of his mother's bedroom door. But he doesn't really want to think about his mother right now, so he focuses on the wooden box that's leaning against the wall next to the mirror, right by the electrical plug. He watches as the bartender plugs the infamous spotlight into the outlet. The light comes on and a guy standing nearby hands the bartender some sort of color wheel. It's like the ones that light up those fake aluminum Christmas trees. The bartender plugs the color wheel into the second outlet and then positions it in front of the spotlight. It begins to spin slowly. Next, the bartender picks up the wooden box and stages it directly in front of the mirror. It's about 10 inches tall and is the perfect size for one person to stand in the center and move about 2 feet in any direction. The multicolored lights, now reflecting at an angle into the mirror, add quite the drama. But none of this stage and setup is any more dramatic than when the bartender walks over to a switch on the wall and turns on a silver spinning disco ball hanging from the ceiling just in front of the stage. Holy smokes. Richard thinks that he should have worn his polyester bell bottoms tonight instead of his Levi's. But then again, Richard thinks that his pants aren't going to make any difference in this den of iniquity. The tension begins to build in the air as all of the voyeurs, male and female, begin to move the tables and chairs towards the walls, opening up the stage. A couple of the girls, college age and really good looking, move over next to Richard, gently brushing against him as they position themselves, one on each side. Tim and Henry quickly step in and anchor the ends. The boys and girls introduce themselves. They are all feeling the love in the air tonight. The crowd is spaced out so that everyone now has a front row seat. There must have been 25 or 30 people, various ages, all aligned like they're standing before a firing squad. Everyone's hot and sweating bullets with anticipation, but the youngest ones look to be sweating the most. Richard runs the back of his hand across his forehead. He's as cool as a cucumber. He looks at his friends, and they look drunk. Then he looks at each of the two girls, and they look like they are ready for things to get started. He knows that look. Walking back towards the bar, the bartender asks if anyone needs a drink before the show starts. A few minutes later, everyone is satisfied, at least for their beverage orders. The bartender then goes over to the jukebox, inserts a handful of quarters, and looking at a piece of paper begins punching in numbers. How about that? A curated playlist for the evening's main event? Let this show begin. A tambourine rings from the rear of the room. The crowd's heads turn in unison, looking towards the back, behind the pool table, and towards a dimly lit hallway between the boys' and girls' bathrooms. Then, from somewhere out of nowhere, an announcer with a mic says, "Welcome everyone to the show. Tonight's special lineup is 3 young Southern beauties straight from the campus of the University of Georgia. Please welcome our first dancer from the Orchards of Heaven, Peaches." And right on cue, the jukebox kicks in with the first song, KC and the Sunshine Band's "Shake Your Booty." Following the lead from the music, Peaches, in her revealing outfit, slowly begins to shake her way through the crowd and towards the stage. Everyone can feel their temperature rising and their fantasies and realities dancing in their heads. When Richard hears the knocking sound, he thinks it must be his headboard, but he realizes that nothing's moving and it's not the right volume. The pounding is too distant. He sits up, steadies himself in the slowly spinning room, and wonders where he is. He sees a familiar mason jar on the nightstand beside him. It's half full, and he can see a sunbeam shining through it. He begins to recognize his surroundings and very, very slowly moves his feet onto the floor. Bracing himself with his hands by his side, firmly planted into the bed, he slowly and cautiously stands up. He realizes that he doesn't have a stitch of clothes on, but he doesn't care. He shuffles his feet towards the bedroom door, and he hears the knocking sound getting closer. He takes a few steps down the hallway towards the bedrooms and sees that Tim's bedroom door is wide open. When he gets to the door, a memory fleets through his throbbing head. He looks in and sees clothes scattered haphazardly around the room. He recognizes the Levi's and boxers as his. Sprawled across the bed, he sees the two girls laying together between Tim and Henry. Everyone's naked and motionless. He hears the knocking sound repeat, then thinks to himself that he is not ever going to drink shine again. Never, never again. He realizes now where the knocks are coming from. His head is pounding. His stomach is in turmoil. Please let the knocks go away. His prayers are answered. The knocks stop. He feels a sense of relief. He turns away from the bedroom of sin and begins to shuffle further down the hallway towards the bathroom. He stops at the doorway into the front room. He sees the clock on the wall by the front door. It's 12:30. He thinks that it may be Sunday. Church is just now let out. He hears what sounds like a key slide into the door lock. He freezes. He prays that he is dead. When the door opens, he sees her face. Oh no. He knows what his girlfriend wants. He can see it in her eyes from all the way across the room. In all of his naked glory, he sees her desire. He swears to himself that if he lives through this day, he will never again drink shine, and he may even start going back to church. She steps into the room and closes the door. Richard feels the temperature in the room going up. He runs the back of his hand across his forehead. He's sweating bullets. He feels his knees getting weak. He's falling forward into the arms of his girlfriend. When Richard wakes up, he's lying on his back in his bed. His girlfriend is straddling him. He likes what he sees. She looks very satisfied. He looks into her eyes and asks, "How was the birthday party?" Seductively, she smiles and says, "I'll tell you about it later." Suddenly, Richard felt like a new man. He knew what that meant, and now it's time to get down to business. So with his most sincere puppy dog look, he asked his girlfriend, "Would you like to try something new today? I've got a surprise for you." He glances over towards the nightstand. She looks down at Richard and asks, "Is it as good as the surprise I got from Tim and Henry and my two new girlfriends?" Richard thinks about that statement, but decides not to ask questions. So he says, "I promise you, it's going to be even better." His girlfriend leans forward and gives him a long, passionate kiss. Then, looking into his eyes, she says, "I believe you, Richard. You have never let me down. I love you." And Richard, feeling his excitement growing, whispers back, "I love you too. You're the best."
Chief,
They should hire you to write the next Hangover movie. No, that was hilarious. I love, and like the ending in particular was completely unexpected. I have to say though, early on you have a line, everything from this point on will be illegal, and that should be I'm not sure what the title is, but that should be the title. That is such a great title for something. Everything from this point on will be illegal. And no, but the way it all unfolds and the level of detail that you, not only the level of detail you give everything, but also the way that you choose the moments that you look away, right? There's a really, which is like really key to comic writing, right? Like knowing when to look away, knowing the moment that something will go from being funny to like gratuitous, or funny to just a little bit too uncomfortable, and pushing as close to that line of discomfort as possible before you turn away. And this story really succeeds at that. It's very funny, Keith. Very good.
Thanks, William. Thanks.
And I think that's it for tonight. As usual, I'm going to keep the Zoom room open for another however long, so people can hang out and talk, but I think I'm going to end the recording now. Thank you to everyone who read. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Josh, Keith, Rudy, Grapes. Who did I forget? I can feel Adam. I can feel in my soul that I'm forgetting people, and I apologize if I forgot you, but thank you to everyone who read. That was awesome. And we will do this again next Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, anyone is welcome to come and join us. We do this every Friday night. We tweet out the link from our Twitter account at Misery Tourism just a few minutes before we begin. Okay, guys, thanks so much. That was awesome.